Warning: the podcast you are about to listen to discusses films on the basis of the craft of screenwriting. It contains spoilers. Films discussed may also contain offensive content.
In this episode, we'll be discussing The NeverEnding Story, released in 1984, and Spirited Away, released in 2001. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to episode 15 of the Jay and Dave Went to Film School podcast.
Welcome back, listeners.
Currently recording this a couple days before Father's Day, and it'll be our fantasy episode this is, so Fantasy Father's Day.
You have told me that you have a father that has kind of helped get you into animation. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, he grew up with cartoons, mostly Japanese animation, and then it was pretty much Disney movies and I guess TV cartoons for pretty much throughout my entire childhood, which both in turn helped me learn English, but kind of got me to be a screen kid from a very, very early age.
That's just a cool thing to be able to share with your father. I think we all have different things that we share with our fathers. And movie and TV isn't generally one of them, but it is. It's cool when those things can line up, because that is something that we tend to do a lot, I think, with our families.
My dad's just a huge film buff, more than my mom, really. So even when we moved to Canada, the first thing he wanted to buy were like some Star Wars memorabilia. So I think he have a Darth Vader helmet, Stormtrooper. When The Mandalorian came out, he got really obsessed with that, so we actually have like a Baby Grogu. And I think we have a couple Funko Pops.
And you also said he was into Gundam.
Yeah, no, he's super into that. Big robots. Transformers among them as well, but yeah, mostly Gundam. So he does buy the sets, he builds them. I would help, but I'm more of a Lego guy.
So my question is this, I usually associate, and I don't think I've even watched a Gundam episode or anything, so I don't know a lot about it. I know it's big robots, but when you're growing up and you see your dad loving big robots, how come you're not a huge Gundam fan? Or did that go oh, that's dad's thing, I have to find my own animation thing?
No, I mean, I did grow up watching Transformers. I do like watching big robots fight. But yeah, no, surprisingly enough, even though my dad really liked the old Japanese anime, I mostly grew up with the Disney Channel and Disney movies, which is actually something my mom gave me. Pixar, Disney, the app was pretty much my realm.
So, but did you watch the anime, like Gundam type shows as well?
I'll have to be honest with you, yeah. No, I don't think so. Whenever my dad watched it, it was kind of on his own time, I think.
Do you think it was a conscientious choice that they had of not, was it those shows a bit more adult level and they thought maybe you were too young for it?
Probably, I would think so, because I've watched a couple now, and I think there is some blood. There's definitely a lot of violence, a lot of things. So I'm pretty sure he didn't want to show that to a 6-year-old, even though I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have cared. I think it's mostly my mom. My mom who was like, no, keep him away from that. He'll be ready at some point. The one thing is, now, just because there's so much other new shows that came out, my dad likes watching the newer stuff. But he often goes back to watching Gundam whenever I catch him at night, just watching after work.
Interesting
Yeah.
How those family dynamics work and how tastes develop from childhood.
I mean, let me think, right? Because you were born around, 1970, I think?
77.
77, right? Which means your dad must have been from the 50s, 60s, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
So did he make you watch, those older, black and white movies as well that he might have grown up with?
So my dad was a trucker, still is actually, and so he was gone a lot of my childhood. I didn't have a lot of TV watching time with my dad. There were times, obviously, that it happened, and I remember watching hockey with my dad.
Yeah, pretty classic.
And every once in a while, renting movies and stuff like that. But not a lot of TV shows that I remember. That we would
Really?
watch.
Even though you pretty much grew up in the 80s and 90s, which is golden age.
Well, I watched a lot of TV.
Oh, fair enough.
Not with my dad.
I'm guessing he's more of a radio guy then.
He likes his radio and TV. He's kind of got all the bases covered because when he's on his truck, he'll watch or listen to a lot of radio and mostly news radio and family talk, like Christian programming. He likes a lot of TV shows too. My parents are TV watchers.
But it was pretty much you who fell into to TV then. It wasn't really outside influence.
Yeah, after school, I would come home, and usually me and my sister would watch TV. That was the most common activity, I would say.
No, I got you. Because yeah, that's the one thing I kind of know about that time of history. Because like we didn't really have the internet. It was kind of like it was still in its fledgling stage. So I'm pretty sure there were still conversations happening on the street about like the season endings of Friends, or like the new episodes of I don't know what was on, Degrassi, because there wasn't like Twitter, there wasn't Instagram. Whenever a show came on, you were just talking to people on the street, at school.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely the big events every once in a while. It's even before Friends. I never actually watched Friends, but
Really?
I was before that there were like the mainstream sitcoms that everybody watched. So like Family Ties, Cosby Show. There was a ton of them back in that day, and then every once in a while there would be a finale, and that was a big deal.
I'm assuming because your dad was on the road. Did you talk to your mom about it, or it was mostly just like you and your sister?
Yeah, and then Friends. I don't remember talking about TV shows too much with my parents.
Oh, interesting. And you still ended up becoming a scriptwriter. Because, yeah.
Well, a kid can, different. Some kids are more solitary, right? And they still have hobbies and they still have interests and pursuits.
No, fair enough. Because like yeah, because my dad was just so into film, and my mom in some capacity as well. She mostly watches drama and romance. But when I told them I wanted to become a writer first and then a scriptwriter, they were pretty supportive about it. I'm assuming your parents are still keeping up with what you're doing on your career side, though.
Oh yeah, they are hugely supportive. They have enjoyed supporting me on this journey, and they came out to my grad. You met them,
Yeah, I
and
did.
so
Yes,
they're super supportive. I love them a bunch.
I certainly hope your dad pulls in to town by Father's Day. You take him out for some diner.
I think they are currently on a vacation out in Manitoba with other family gatherings, and I'll be joining them,
Oh, sweet. Well, I hope your dad enjoys his time then.
and you as
Oh,
well. Enjoy
oh,
your Father's Day time.
well, thank you. I certainly hope my dad will enjoy shopping around, looking at Gundam, because we're taking him out to an anime convention.
That is an awesome way to spend Father's Day.
Tried to force a segue from sci-fi over to fantasy, though. We watched two pretty interesting fantasy films,
Yeah,
NeverEnding Story and Spirited Away.
yeah, we're going with our themes, our genre-themed episodes, and so we decided to do fantasy this time around. It's maybe not quite as prolific as sci-fi, but it is a super interesting genre with some good entries.
I mean, maybe not prolific on your side, but I've always been a sucker for fantasy. I love exploring like huge, expansive worlds, new creatures, and
Yeah, I'm sure
it's
there's more
yeah.
in animation. I would assume.
There's quite a bit of sci-fi animation, and there's also quite a little bit of fantasy. Ghibli definitely dominates that category of animation fantasy, along with a
Right.
lot of other animations. Sorry, a lot of other anime. Surprisingly enough, I think it's a lot of magical realism. If you find an animation where it's like monsters in the real world, stuff like that. Probably just because it's easier to do to just draw like one fantasy creature instead of an entire fantasy world. I mean, there is Disney. A lot of Disney animations were mostly just the classic fairy tales being turned into fantasy like that. Shrek, of course, is big 3D. DreamWorks, of course. But now I'm thinking about it. Quite a little bit of more fantasy worlds in animation.
Fantasy is a tougher one to bring across to the big screen. Of course, back 2000 era, we got the big Lord of the Rings productions, which were the biggest and still probably the best fantasy movies, I would say, out there, live action.
Yeah, arguably yes. The entire Tolkien series pretty much, adapted to the screen. I'm assuming a lot of those battles definitely work better in a visual medium. A lot of those descriptions of all the different characters work better when you can actually see them. Yeah, that's probably the one of the best movies that did get adapted from book, along with the Harry Potter series that was happening around the same time, I think.
Yep. I think it
Yeah.
started a bit later, but went for longer. More things to adapt. So, yeah, I guess some people would say maybe if you got fans of one or the other, they're probably going to stick to their camps.
No,
But
that's true.
there, when I was thinking about what I could suggest, because I obviously I love the Lord of the Rings films, but I didn't. I wanted to find a different film to suggest because I want to kind of dig around and find the entries that are a little more obscure that people maybe haven't heard of. Introduce something interesting, and there weren't a lot. There weren't a lot of fantasy live actions to choose from. Princess Bride is a good one. That one's kind of considered a classic by a lot of people. I as well. But you had seen that one already.
Yeah, thanks to my dad. He at least got me on some of those classic films, like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, when that came out as well. But I will say it's definitely an incredibly interesting choice from a fantasy film. The premise of this is a boy reading a book and then kind of seeing that fantasy world in his imagination. So I immediately started comparing it to The Princess Bride. So I'm like, oh, it's going to be like a narrator type thing. We're going to break the third wall a couple times. Surprisingly, like, the way the story interacts with the narrator, there's actually a relationship there. The world and I believe his name is Bastian. They're both intertwined to each other. He's part of the plot. The fantasy world is part of his world. I think there's even a twist at the end where it's like they actually acknowledge the viewer as well.
Exactly. Like it's not just breaking the fourth wall. It's
Yeah, fourth wall.
actually making that interaction a story device, like a plot device. You're kind of both characters are part of the plot and interact with each other, not just the audience, but they acknowledge the audience. So it's almost like you're getting that sense of breaking the wall and being an actual player, not just being acknowledged as an audience member, but now you are a character as well. Gives you that sense anyway.
I say, what's his name again? Atreyu, right? Because like the whole, I guess, big plot, or I guess plot twist of this whole film is Bastian is the key to saving the fantasy world, because it is the hopes, dreams, and imaginations of all the people in humanity. And I guess he's the linchpin in all this. Like, he's the last person who believes. But yeah, you have Atreyu going all these different adventures, and we always kind of cut back to Bastian's reaction to things. So when Artax dies in the swamp, we get Bastian crying. Same thing happens with the turtle. We actually have him scream, and then the characters start reacting to it. So we kind of establish early on that Bastian has some influence on this world. That's why it's kind of both the gimmick, that's the thing I like about it, and also the thing that's kind of a little off-putting about me, just because I haven't seen a movie that did this kind of level before. There's some other movies I can think about that have this kind of, this is the imaginary world, we're understanding this is the imaginary world, and there are people outside of it that either believe or don't believe and have influence on it, but not exactly to this extent, where both are almost equal characters. Because yeah, it's the fantasy episode, and the way this ends up beginning, this never-ending story, is we're introduced to three really interesting characters from like almost a adventuring party standard. The big rock giant, the dwarf with the snail, and like the, I guess, weird hobgoblin monkey with his big bat creature. And I was kind of excited to see like an adventure with these three guys. But yeah, we don't see it.
And they could have gone that, or the author could have gone that route. And I too, I felt like these are kind of stock. They feel kind of stock. They have, a little bit of like the Lord of the Rings in them, Chronicles of Narnia. Oh, the Chronicles of Narnia is another great example of a fantasy film, live action.
Yeah. I've watched that one. I can't really remember anything that happens to it besides a lion, a witch, and a wardrobe.
We should do that one at some point.
Yeah,
it's a
we
great
should.
one. I feel like they did the first one in that series really well as a film, and then the rest weren't that great. But I love the books. The Chronicles of Narnia series by C.S. Lewis. Excellent fantasy series. As a child, it was a favorite. And interestingly enough, I haven't really introed the NeverEnding Story yet, but it began as a novel, German novel, written by Michael Ende, Ende, published in 1979. And so it's like it was on the bestseller list in Germany for like 2 or 3 years, and so it's like hugely in the German consciousness in literary circles. And it's funny because one of our classmates, Angel, grew up in Germany, and she was a big fan of NeverEnding Story. And I don't know if you noticed this. There were the scenes with the bullies at the beginning.
Yep.
The three bullies, and they chase Bastion and put him in a dumpster. Did you recognize the street that they were running on?
Was that Vancouver?
Not only was that Vancouver, that was a block down from VFS, from where we were.
No way, really? Now I'm gonna look this up again.
Watch it again. It's just a block towards the waterfront, and there's that one. So that's where they start, and you can actually see that one red and yellow building that was kitty corner to VFS in the background. And there's one back alley they run down that is, you might have recognized too.
Really?
And anyway, when I was talking with Angel about this, she had to go to that back alley. That was a big thrill.
You know what? Now that I think about it, I need to look in if Vancouver actually has like a walkthrough of different like on-site film sets.
They probably do.
They must have, right?
I would think.
I found the scene because I have the streaming site on right now, but so it's only the alley. It's not this wider shot.
No, it's when all the scenes with the bullies is right in that area.
Oh really? Oh yeah, no, because like I think it's the lamppost that give it away, because this is Hastings, isn't it?
It's a block down closer to Gastown.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean, Gastown. Because yeah, I recognize the street lamps now. Because now I look at it, like the stop signs and the road signs are very Canadian as well. And oh yeah, no, there it is. Yeah, I walked past that on the way to school. There's a car parked there, isn't there?
It's a good film for us to do on this podcast, because this is the film school that Jay and Dave went to.
Exactly,
you can
right?
See the street.
Not exactly the dumpster, yeah. You'll be able to find the exact dumpster. Yeah.
We were never in the dumpster.
I wonder if the bookshop's an actual place then as well.
I did go into. There was it's funny. There was a rare bookstore right across the street from the film school.
Yeah, no, I visited that place as well, because I do remember there were just like stacks of old books on the floor. All the shelves like literally are overflowing books.
I don't think it's the same one that they filmed.
Is it not? Yeah.
But anyway, it's funny that there was one right there. Yeah.
I wonder if the school's also a Vancouver set as well.
Don't know.
Well, I definitely didn't go to it. That's at least. Yeah, no. Well, that's cool.
That's a bit of the background. It was a book, and it was really popular in Germany. And then the U.S. bought the rights, made the film. It grossed about 100 million worldwide, only about 20 million in the States, which was just kind of modest because it had, I think, a 60 million production cost. But worldwide, it definitely was a success. It shows its age, definitely. Like some of those early 80s fantasy type movies. For one, they actually have some elements that look great with the practical effects. Like this was another one of those practical effects films, which when it's done well, it's just like you're right there and it works so well. But when it's every once in a while, it shows, it kind of wears thin a bit. And then it takes you out.
You'll definitely get that with the green screen scenes of Bastion riding atop of the luck dragon. But
yes.
I think that's pretty much like every single film made during that time. That's kind of like that. I guess that the nostalgic part of it. I kind of like those scenes where it's like obviously
they picked good backgrounds for them. Like
yeah, they did. Yeah,
the some of the cloud scenes were just great. Like rolling clouds from the top. Sometimes it was kind of sunny and it was meant to convey just like freedom and joy, but other times it was like kind of dark and rolling, and they used those scenes well for tone.
Because yeah, the practical effects of like, of course, Falcor, we have to talk about him. Like, I'm pretty sure it's a full model they built because we have Atreyu kind of lying on him. And I'm pretty sure that model is somewhere in some like Hollywood archive or museum somewhere. But like apart from that, like there's this one scene where it's like all the residents of Fantasia, or like the envoys going to the Empress, and we see like all these different people. And like from a fantasy perspective, I love that. I like the scene in Star Wars where they had the Galactic Council. You see all these different aliens, so you can kind of see the scope of the galaxy. And you
Mm-hmm.
kind of get this with that scene as well, where you have like there's this many people living in the fantasy world, and I think they made a couple of different costumes and models for that as well, like the big head guys, the elephant. Yeah, a couple. The
Yeah.
costume department also went pretty big for that as well, I think.
Mm-hmm. There was a lot of diversity in the characters for sure. This film is all about the wonder of story and imagination, right? And how it's important to keep that alive. I think it goes beyond just straight imagination to what is outside, what is beyond, and that it's important to be open to what is beyond.
Like on that note though, right? Because like yeah, I get that the fantasy world is the imagination of, I guess it's the combined imagination of everybody. But that's the one thing I kind of wanted to see more about the NeverEnding Story is just what Fantasia is, because when we do go with a Atreyu, they're all very like isolated scenes where it's just like him, and like him and the turtle, him and the dwarves, him and the rock giant, but we don't get to see like the people too much apart from that one scene in the ivory tower. Because yeah, I like seeing different worlds being explored, right? I like
Like
seeing how different people live
you
in
want
this
to
world.
see the normal world.
Yeah, because like if we use like Lord of the Rings as kind of a framework here, right? You start at Hobbiton and we see like, oh, these are the tiny people that live here, right? And then we can contrast it with like the Mines of Moria with the dwarves, or the elves place as well. You can like put all four of them on the same map and like they make a cohesive world, but individually they're completely different locations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But for Neverending Story, it's mostly like it's a very classic hero's journey. It's mostly
Mm-hmm.
trials and tribulations, which
Yeah.
again it's an incredibly well done hero's journey. I pretty much mapped every single moment of it pretty well to film standard. Your All Is Lost is pretty good with the destruction of the world. The midpoint, I think, was the Sphinxes, where he finally kind of confronts his fears and like realizes that the world is bigger than he realizes. But yeah, from a fantasy perspective, there's a lot of like we touched on a couple things, but like I never really. I think they underutilized Falcor in a way that I feel like could have been cool if they flew around Fantasia a bit before it got blown up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I
Because yeah,
agree.
it ties back to the three characters you see at the beginning. Because they tell them like where we're from. Like rock giants from the west, this guy's from the east, that guy's from the south, and it's like okay, like I want to kind of see that. They're very individual people. They have their own technology. They have their own culture and people. But we don't get to see that through Atreyu or Bastian's eyes. Which again might not have been the point of the story, but in a sense, if Bastian were supposed to care about Fantasia in a way, I think we need to also care about Fantasia and see what we're potentially losing if this place was gone.
You want to show the normal world. I think that they were up against a challenge in that
Mm.
they had a book to adapt, and in fact, they only did the book was quite large, and whenever you adapt a book, it's incredibly a hard task to put it into a movie because there's always more that happens in a full novel than you can fit into a book. So they only did the first half, which is interesting.
But they did make there's a trilogy. There's a trilogy movie, right? So I'm assuming they covered the
No,
rest of the book.
no, this book was just a single book.
Oh no, the movie series
So
of the
yeah,
Never
they
Ending
did
Story.
make two more, and one was meant to be the second half, which they didn't plan for initially, but because it was popular, then they did it, and then the third one was an original story that they didn't take from the book.
Oh, interesting.
But this is also a case where you can make the case that there's really two protagonists. This is a dual protagonist film. You could make the case that it is Bastian, that he is the main protagonist, but there's enough with the drama of what's going on in Fantasia that I think it warrants saying it's dual. But you do have Bastian's normal world. But yeah, I think you always do better when you can make your world a bit lived in before you go and tell a story in it.
It is a matter of also just runtime as well. Like as a writer, you need to be able to plan out like how much exposition you're going to give. Not all of us have 5 movies like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter has to explain the entire depth of this universe. I'll touch on it later when we talk about Spirited Away, but the one thing that it was able to do is give you a confined area to explore, which is just the bathhouse, where Fantasia is the whole world. So I can kind of see why they had to focus mostly on Atreyu and Bastian. But even in that sense, I don't think we get too much of an ordinary world from Atreyu because we don't get to see his hometown. But on Bastian's side, even though we do get to see that, his family situation, his mom recently died, his dad is kind of a hardliner. We actually don't get to see too much of, I guess, the impact Fantasia has on him, on him getting over his dead mom, him getting his relationship with the dad. Like we pretty much forget all of
That's
that.
true. That is true.
We get into it, right?
He does have a personal arc, but they don't tie off some of those plot points. Yeah.
Because I kind of I found it like really funny, like because like Bastian's place of reading is the school attic, so it's like we have to go to the context, like his dad has completely forgot about him. He's in the middle of a storm. Like the school is like didn't even care that he didn't show up for a math test, and he came back on a dragon. So like
it's partly like the story doesn't do that in the book, so they did have to deviate for the ending to tie it off and still have it be a somewhat cohesive ending. Could have done more to tie those things off better, for sure.
I like that relationship. I like the gimmick, but Bastian's character kind of felt more as like almost the equivalent of like a YouTuber reactor to the story than like a full character. At least we got the I guess the vindication at the end where he uses the dragon to scare the bullies into the dumpsters. That was fun.
There was so that basically shows his arc to be by the power of being imaginative, of keeping his kind of hope for the beyond in him. He has courage. That sort of gives him courage. But what else I thought was a really cool moment that stands out to me to this day. Like I rewatched this in preparation for the podcast, and I had forgotten a lot of it. But the one thing that I did remember that sticks out the most to me about this movie is at the end when he is basically confronted with being a character in the story, and they're calling on him to save Fantasia by speaking out the name, giving the Empress a new name. And they've set that up by saying that his mom, who has passed away, had a beautiful name, and so they've set that up, and so he knows what he's going to say when he gets up the courage to actually speak it out. But the way they film it, and I'm assuming it's this way in the book too, but I don't know actually, is you don't hear what he says. You don't hear what the name is. He just yells it out, and you see his voice like yelling. And it just felt, as a kid, when I saw that scene, it was like that there was something powerful there, that they don't actually let you know what he says. So it just it was the mysterious element of it.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me. And that also, I think, shows some resolution for the fact that he lost his mother, and so that's part of his character at the beginning, and this was a way to kind of process that. He actually kind of extended her name beyond in Fantasia, and that I think helped him go forward with the loss of his mom in a healthy way.
Yeah, no, I agree, because I do remember that scene, and I did watch this movie without subtitles, and like it happens during the middle of a storm, like over lightning and thunder, and I'm guessing he says like a not exactly like a typical human name, but I kind of got the same reaction where like, oh, it must have something to do with the mom, whatever name he gave the Empress. But yeah, I had the same reaction. I didn't know what he said exactly.
Yeah,
actually, I have no idea what he said.
And I think they intended it to be unknown.
I feel like that moment would have been more impactful if we explored that conflict of reality versus fantasy more through, I guess, going with Bastian in his normal world. Because again, he's pretty much just in the attic for the rest of the movie after he skips out of his math test. And I mean, he never even returns the book as well, I just realized.
Well, we don't see him return it. That's true. He said he would, but
because we don't get an epilogue of the real world. It's mostly just him on Falcor scaring the bullies. But should I watch the second movie? Did it explain like?
I'm trying to remember if I've even seen it. I don't think it was very good. Like I don't think it got nearly as popular as the first one. I don't think I've seen it.
I am just tempted out of curiosity just to go check it out if they do more. If they do explore the world of Fantasia more,
I'm actually curious too. Now that I've read the synopsis of the book, the original book, it sounds fascinating. The author's original intent for this character, because he becomes Bastion like becomes leader of Fantasia, and then he kind of becomes an anti-hero and starts
Really?
going dark, and then him and Atreyu kind of battle it out. Like, so it sounds like it goes to some wild moments in the character progression there.
That's insane. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Well, now I have to go look up the second one now. But yeah, as a standalone movie, I think yeah could have been a little bit more, right? Because like you don't write first movies with the intention of writing the sequel. I think it should be a standalone thing, unless it is specifically part one, part two. I mean, overall though, like my favorite scene in this was Atreyu coming to terms with like his whole journey. He's kind of been used. Like I still remember this one line. It's like my horse died and all this, just so some other kid can take the glory. Like that was a crazy breakdown for me. I have to talk a little bit just about the opening music just for a second
Mm-hmm.
because after watching this film, I pretty much just listened to that song on repeat for about an hour afterwards.
That's
Because yeah,
cool.
you
In fact, I think Stranger Things played the theme to this movie,
yes,
and it became super
I
popular.
did look that up. That was part of the YouTube rabbit hole. You guys just had better music. I'm not gonna lie. I definitely grew up in the wrong generation to have good quality stuff like that. Because yeah, I'm kind of wishing now that more modern movies just began with just like title worthy theme songs. And that motif actually, like the NeverEnding Story song, I think they use it as a musical motif throughout the entire movie as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't take special notice of the music, but it definitely, I mean, was era music, and so it fit
Hmm.
the feel of the film.
But yeah, overall, the music aside, I think I gave this movie just a 4 out of 5, just because it sets up a lot of cool things. It does a lot of cool stuff. I love Atreyu as a character and his journey. I definitely wanted a little bit more out of it to explore that conflict they set up.
I probably this one has fond memories as a child. I didn't remember everything about it. It does show its age, and in my live action schematic, I probably give it a 3.5.
But yeah, at least now I can say I've watched this because it definitely does feel like one of those movies you kind of have to watch, regardless of the time period. But yeah,
Yeah,
thank you for that,
you're
Jason.
welcome. Yeah, yeah. I thought that would be a good one for our fantasy episode. You picked a good one as well. Spirited Away, Miyazaki film. Very unique. This one goes to some pretty interesting places too.
Yeah, that's a little bit of an understatement, but yes, it's definitely a place.
I mean, I've definitely watched a few anime films, and so knowing that they come from the Japanese culture,
Hmm.
their themes and their motifs and settings all surround that culture,
Yep.
and so you're getting a picture of a different culture. Like it really is quite removed from our culture,
Yeah.
and
No. 100%.
it's a cool journey to go into there. And what I see it as, and I'm curious to hear what you see it as, but it is kind of the Japanese exploring their concept of the afterlife. Like what is does that look like to them? Everyone thinks about life and death, and what does life after death look like. Japanese culture definitely has a lot of spiritual elements, and so they must think, well, what does it actually look like? What could it look like? And so I'm assuming that's whoever wrote this. I'll let you kind of intro it and give some details, but I'm thinking they were just kind of producing something to play out what one possibility of the afterlife could look like.
I'll have to say I definitely have to fact check if it is an afterlife story because from what I understand of it was it all the I guess the monsters you see are spirits in that in like the Japanese sense they are things that embody different like natural objects like trees and rivers. Like Haku is a river dragon. The sludge monster is also a river spirit as well. I forgot what No Face is. I forgot what he embodies, but I'm pretty sure he's also a spirit as well. So they're all going to this bathhouse as almost a retreat. like a celestial retreat for different deities. But the train scene with these the shadowy figures, I actually don't know if those are the souls of the departed. If this is a spirit train, as it would be. But yeah, I can definitely see this as an afterlife movie. I think there probably are some notions of life and death. Because yeah, Chihiro does end up selling her soul away to Yubaba in order to survive. To me, this was more of a story about a kid overcoming her fears, and I guess maturing into an older, more mature woman. But yeah, I can definitely see. But yeah, like you're right. There's definitely a lot of Japanese cultural exploration going on because it's a bathhouse setting, and from what I understand, bathhouses are communal gatherings for the Japanese people, and you definitely get a sense of that through just seeing the diversity of the staff and also the patrons.
So I think there's multiple things going on. Like it's not always that there's just one primary theme or that what they're trying to get across. Because yeah, there's definitely a character journey as well, and I definitely saw some similarities in some of the symbolism that they used in this film compared to how we have used symbolism in our films in North America. For instance, her parents at the beginning there, when she first sort of crosses over, she goes back to them, and they were, pigging out at the buffet, and she goes back to them, and now all of a sudden they're pigs in the spirit realm.
Yep, yep.
And so, kind of like the symbolism of gluttony and having that become the form that they take, being pigs, has been done in different ways over here as well, although in kind of slightly different ways. But for instance, Animal Farm, the pigs definitely represent sort of a more affluent and gluttonous kind of segment of the population.
You could say the bourgeois. That's what they were. The communist revolution. But yeah.
So definitely some similarities in symbolism, commonality in their stories and filmmaking, and it's actually one of the things that coming into an episode about that we're doing here on fantasy, and also coming back to C.S. Lewis. I read a book or listened to an audiobook of some of his thoughts on writing, like the craft of writing, which was super interesting. I'd recommend it. But he talks about, and him and Tolkien were friends. They were part of the same. I think they both worked at Oxford. Anyway, they were good friends, and they shared their writing with each other, and the Inklings, their writing club. But one of the things that C.S. Lewis, he has just so much praise for Tolkien's Lord of the Rings book, and when Tolkien really blazed the trail with that, kind of single-handedly forging the fantasy genre in a lot of ways. But one of the things that I think really summarizes fantasy as a genre, and this is what C.S. Lewis said, is he shows the characters' insides on the outside. And so what's sort of within a character, he finds a way to paint that on the outside in a kind of non-standard, non-regular world way, which exemplifies their essence kind of externally, which I thought was really insightful. It's really simple, and yet it's what sort of brings us away in fantasy, and also testifying that it's a symbolic thing.
Yeah, no, I like that because I guess this is another thing that animation does really well. But yeah, showing the characters' insides and the outside, I think you definitely see that in just Chihiro's curiosity as well as nervousness whenever she's interacting with the world. She's always stumbling. She's always blushing. Her eyes are always wide.
Well, and that's another thing that set this film apart for me. I wouldn't even necessarily say that was an example of classic fantasy characterization where you have these strange beings like elves and dwarves and ghosts. Like these are things where that comes in, where you're showing like the dwarves were these stocky, hardy people that like to sing and drink their ale, and it's like C.S. Lewis said he knew people like that. Like those were like real humans that he
Oh, I got you. I
knew.
got you.
That's who they were, and Tolkien just found a way to demonstrate that type of personality externally by making these dwarves a certain way, and same with the
Oh, I
elves
see. I see.
and even the dragon. They have these attributes that are external that sort of speak of something else about the personality. But going back to what you're saying about the way that she stumbles and blushes, one of the things in anime that I find is so different than North American film is sort of how they manage to stay grounded in what they animate. Like a North American movie, I don't think, you can probably find examples now that I'm going to say this, but they wouldn't show like those quiet moments of a blush or like
Yes, yes.
even like the way that she might move her feet slowly down the stairs. And, like that's like we would see that as a waste of time, or like a producer here would be like, no, get right to the action, or whatever, keep moving. But anime is okay with being that grounded, where if a child would actually do that, let's animate the child doing that, which I think is a good mechanism for animation.
There is a term for those quiet scenes in Japanese animation because yeah, that's what I love about it. That even though you could do so much with animation, you can go all off the walls, full exaggeration. Yeah, those quiet, real moments they often do get forgotten. But in Ghibli, they love throwing in like just scenes of them cooking, scenes of just a field at night and just hear the crickets. And yeah, the shuffling of feet, the tiny interactions, like they really know who they're putting on the screen. They really know how they're interacting with the world.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it just goes to show, like, both the love of both animation but also the love of life, I think, is a really good term for it.
Yeah,
But like, yeah.
and just like how like so much of a story is the character. We know this from learning the essence of writing, and so much of characters is how they react to the world, and that's not always a big action packed reaction. Sometimes it's very subdued, and you need to be able to show that. Obviously you need to make sure your movie progresses and that there's a good balance of what's going on, but you need to be able to realistically show sort of all facets of a character, even if it's very subtle.
Because yeah, when I think about quiet moments in like more mainstream Hollywood films, they're more there as breathers for the audience, really, to catch up or understand things. Like, you have like action scene, then quiet moment, action scene, quiet moment, which in some cases, like, movies like Spirited Away does as well. But I think Spirited Away and other Ghibli films, they have quiet moments followed by impactful, dramatic quiet moments, followed by maybe an action scene or another quiet moment, instead of just having it as a functionality of, like, this is just where you take a tiny break. But yeah, going back to fantasy, I love it. Like, also to what you said about characters being their inherent traits being externalized, and the way they move and the way they look. I love seeing reality in fantasy, and by extension animation as well. Because, like, even though fantasy, by kind of the definition of the term, to be like, the world of imagination, the world of non-existence, to be able to go into that kind of world and come back out of it with something you can take into the world we currently live in, that's really, really fun and cool for me. Get those themes of bravery, get those themes of adventure, compassion, kindness.
Definitely lots of symbolism to work with in this movie. Again, fantasy just seems to be so conducive for that. Briefly going back to her character, they really did some good characterization with her, in that she was really small in this world. Like, she was new and kind of the outsider, and also really small. She's a child here. And they showed how she made friends with all the other small things, like those spiders.
Yeah.
And the ghosts that were at least starting out small, but then later turned out to have some major negative sides or trouble
Yeah,
troublesome
yeah.
aspects.
She even made friends with the gigantic baby that got turned into a mouse as well.
That's right.
Love that guy.
That's right. And that fly that had to keep dragging that mouse around.
Um,
That was hilarious. But what
yeah.
did you think of? Because here's another thing that I thought was pretty symbolic. When she finds the thorn or whatever in No Face after he's kind of become more consumed with becoming kind of an antagonist, where he's like consuming people, right? Then she pulls that thorn out, all this like slime and muck and dark stuff just comes out of No Face, and that felt pretty symbolic. I don't know. What did you think?
Well, I'll tell you what. First reaction was ew. Well, second reaction was that's pretty dope, and third was like, oh, that's some really cool foreshadowing as well because they did the same thing with Distinct Creature. But yeah, I saw No Face as a manifestation of, well, negative emotions, but specifically like depression or loneliness, and then later on that through, I guess, Chihiro ignoring him, that manifests itself into rage as well. It could also have something to do with like toxic love as well. I think some people have interpreted as Spirit of the No Face character falling in love with Chihiro in some capacity.
Hmm.
But yeah, all the sludge I'm assuming was just negative emotions pouring out, like almost a sense of like a demon being exorcised or something like that.
It definitely was so. I mean, for one, yeah, evocative. Like, ooh, they did a really good job of animating all that sludge, and I think they call it the stink or something, right? Or was that another aspect of
Oh,
it? I'm not sure.
you actually might be confusing. Wait, hold on. Yeah, you might actually be confusing No Face with the stink monster then. Because yeah, are you thinking about the scene in the bathhouse where Chihiro is washing the big muddy monster? He turns into like, I guess, a
Yeah.
big mask.
Um.
Yeah, that's it.
So there's two characters then.
Yeah.
But that scene, I mean, the sludge pouring out, which you recalled.
Oh, okay. So now
So then I got
I'm
that
definitely
wrong.
not
That
misremembering.
wasn't No Face. That scene was
Yeah,
actually
I think
dealing
you
with.
maybe misremember the movie as well. Because that creature there was the trash in the river. Because he's the river spirit.
Oh, okay, but
So
okay, yeah, I'm conflating No Face because No Face does turn kind of dark as well.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
And
so
it's
there's
because of the reaction to him, to Chihiro ignoring him or brushing him off.
so there's
So
I was getting those mixed up, but there is two similar things going on with those two characters because they both sort of get consumed by evil.
yeah, the river creature consumed by the pollution of humanity. So he wasn't necessarily a completely evil guy. But No Face definitely fell into greed, he fell into gluttony, and he kind of fell into rage and anger as well. But yeah, I think they calm him down after Chihiro, because this comes before the train, this comes before him meeting Yubaba. So I think they end up becoming friends afterwards. Because yeah, when I watch Spirited Away, I love it because of the action scenes, I love it because of the art. Sometimes I forget to pay attention to the character sometimes, but I can't recall what No Face was supposed to represent in this movie, apart from depression and anger and rage.
Yeah, it doesn't always come across like immediately what the things represent. That's why I think it's
And
partly just the
yeah,
culture. You know, they have thoughts about spirituality in their culture, and then they kind of represent them. It's a little looser, I think, but maybe there are some specific things, and I just didn't catch them.
honestly, worth a rewatch for me as well. But yeah, real quick, just to talk about just the fantasy elements in this, just also wrap up on the
Sure.
Japanese mythos. I love the location because yeah, comparing it to Fantasia, it's a much more secluded area. We kind of have the amusement park that's been abandoned initially, and then we transition mostly to the bathhouse, and then our big spirit train on the water brings us to other locations as well. But I felt watching it, I kind of got everything that I need to know about this world. That this is the place where everyone goes to. We get to see a whole diverse cast of background characters and staff members as well. They all have their unique quirks and qualities. So yeah, I kind of felt a little bit more of a satisfying from a fantasy world perspective than NeverEnding Story. But that being said, there's always I guess room to explore other different things. They did a really good job of exploring the staff life and also the, I guess, all the different patrons. They mostly Chihiro mostly interacted with the Daikon Radish guy, which I loved in the elevator. But yeah, if I were to transform this into a TV show, which to me always gives you more room to explore world elements like that, I definitely would have Chihiro interact with a couple more different patrons to see where they're all coming from. Because again, this is it's a bathhouse with every single kind of yokai, kami, and spirit kind of walking inside and out. But yeah, apart from that, it does kind of do the same thing where you don't really see what happens to Chihiro after the fantasy world. Same with NeverEnding Story. She reunites with her family. We know she's going on a big move to a different place. But I think, compared to NeverEnding Story, I think we kind of can assume that she's going to take on her new life with a new face, be more brave about it. Compared to NeverEnding Story, I think I would have wanted to see more of an epilogue, but for Spirited Away, I think I'm happy with how it ended. I mean, it won the Oscar for a reason, for the best animated feature at the time.
Right, definitely.
And yeah, I think you can definitely see it in just the feel it gives you, and I think Ghibli always has to leave you with some kind of feel. It's weirdly enough, it's a really cozy movie to me. Like I'll watch this whenever like I'm feeling kind of sad.
Okay.
It kind of it makes you just a little bit warm inside, just in the atmosphere of the characters and the themes.
Well, and even though they were coming from perspective of Eastern religion, of the Japanese take on religion, I felt like some of the symbolism actually tied in with Christianity, in that some of those symbolic things talk about like gluttony or the stink or whatever are states that our own hearts can be in, and how they are for everyone. And there was one point in the movie where it was like they said that, I forget which character it was, had to go and apologize, and that was part of the resolution or the solution that they had to take. And that's also kind of how it works for us. Like we have to acknowledge that we've got these heart issues, and that sin is one of the ways that we deal with life, and we have to bring that to God and just be honest about it, and he'll forgive us. So that is, I think, something that is playing around when different cultures think about spirituality, and of course central to what Jesus was talking about.
I think regardless of the culture, regardless of the religion, regardless of, I guess, the sphere of mythology, I think you can definitely draw those really common threads of, decency, forgiveness, the human condition. Themes of bravery, characters, real world characters being thrown into a fantasy situation. Both NeverEnding Story and Spirited Away has that. And surprisingly enough, both involve riding on a white dragon. It's always fun to see
I was going to say that too. We have another tie-in for both movies, is that there was a very slithery flying dragon.
Yeah, slithery fiery dragon. There is a monstrous character that was mostly predominantly black hunting down the main character. It's always fun to find these common parallels between just our two movies, even when they don't have much in common at all.
Yeah, we don't plan it out, but there's always something.
There's always something, yeah. Yeah, again, great double feature. I think the way we normally do this is it's always intended to be a double feature for our listeners. So yeah, I could definitely recommend NeverEnding Story. I give Spirited Away a full 5 stars for me, just because of how much impact it had on me when I watched it.
And I think I would give it a 4. Really good film.
Yeah.
And that brings us to an end of another episode.
A close to the apparently never-ending story of our podcast.
Yes.
And we hope you've been spirited away by our conversations.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
All right, then we will catch you on the next episode. Signing off.
And that's a wrap. Special thanks to Niranj, who made the intro and outro music for this podcast. You can find him on Instagram at his handle @NiranjD. That is @NiranJD on Instagram.